Thanks everyone for joining. We'll give those still waiting to come in a little bit of time here, so we will get started. We'll get started shortly here. We've still got a few popping in here. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you guys for joining. My name is Franco Devivo. I'm the SVP here at Helio Lending. Today, I'm joined by McNeal with Walden REI. We'll get into that one in just a second. So first, we got to get the regular stuff out of the way. So we will not be talking about any shareholder information for Helio and Sios. We will try diligently not to give any investment advice on this as well. We're simply going to share about what Blake has been seeing in the marketplace as far as cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, as it pertains into the real estate side of things, but from an investment company versus an individual, and what are his people seeing, where is the excitement coming from. And so we're going to share a little bit about that one. So Blake, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. I know you're about an hour behind here on a what hopefully is a beautiful Friday for you as well. So if you would just take a little bit of time, kind of introduce yourself, how you got into this. Obviously, we can see the shirt, waldenrei.com, Landcoin, love it. That's great. So just kind of let everybody know what you're doing, what you're into, and let's kind of get into it here.
Well, Franco, thank you for having me. This is an incredible opportunity to talk about two of my obsessions for the past few years, and it's real estate investing and blockchain technology. Our company, Walden REI, is founded on the principles of deliberate investment, and we think that land and blockchain, the intersection of land and blockchain technology, is the future. And I know that term's used kind of to a cliche end, but sometimes, and there can only be like a few different futures, but we really are trying to bridge the gap between real estate investing and blockchain technology. What we're seeing in real estate investing and what we're seeing in blockchain technology, it's sometimes hard to read and map out and correlate the trends, but we believe that investors that are interested in real estate are also the same type of people who, if exposed to the benefit of crypto investing, they would see outsized returns, and the solutions that you guys provide are just a perfect kind of link for us to help bridge that gap.
Shameless plug for the lending piece of this. Thank you.
Right. What we see is, ever so often in history, there's a paradigm shift where people start thinking about money differently. And we ask the question all the time: why crypto? Why now? Is it a natural evolution of money? And is it a store of value? And is it even that? Like, there are just so many differing headlines going on. It's so hard to kind of get a grasp on it. But fundamentally, it's crypto doesn't have all the right answers, but it does ask the right questions. And so, encouraging investors to think about money differently, thinking about that growth potential in cryptocurrency is something I think that attracts everyone. And personally, I got into cryptocurrency not from the technical development side, but from price enthusiasm. Seeing how crazy it went up in that first kind of bull run, I think attracted so many people, and it attracted me. And then it led me into the deeper kind of underbelly of it, figuring out its potential for unit of account, thinking about money completely differently. And with that being said, questioning the fiat world in general, it's been something very interesting to us, and that's kind of how Landcoin started. It's a newsletter that I write to my investors that kind of correlate some historical trends and apply what's going on in blockchain to potential um, happenings in the real estate market and
Yeah.
what we're seeing in the real estate market. So um, I guess I'll leave it at that. If that was coherent enough.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, you think about the intersection of what we're doing, and people are looking for ways for investment. And now crypto has a way for investment. Historically, real estate investment firms, you have investors, they give you capital.
right,
You buy or develop properties, real estate out of it for a return and a fee.
right,
So now you can say these guys are interested in crypto. Now I can leverage the crypto, which gives you more capital
right,
to spend, which gives you more ability to generate higher returns, more fees for yourself, everybody. It's a win-win across the board. And,
right.
and especially when you tie in the lending aspect to it, because we know that crypto people don't generally want to sell their crypto, but how can we leverage it? How can we
Right.
leverage it using the lending, using the low interest rate? Can I get 5% or 0% or 2% for a short-term liquidity option that allows me to grow my portfolio? And that's really, I think, when you and I had these original discussions, that was something for your investment group that you went, oh, you could see the light bulb go off. I didn't even know this was an option
Right.
for my investors. So,
It was crazy.
I think that's why it's so exciting that everyone in this space kind of sees it. And I think anyone who's interested in real estate on this call can look at the future of real estate and blockchain together and go, yeah, this is going to be a big change.
Yeah.
It's going to be massive for the future. So how long have you been in business? Talk to us about the feedback that your investors have given you over this crypto piece of it. How are the conversations going with those guys? Like, just kind of walk us through a little bit of that, if you would, and where they stand with it.
So currently, it takes a lot of digging to kind of get people to admit that they follow or might be emotionally controlled by the ups and downs of the crypto universe. But when you have some conversations to on our end, when we have conversations with people, we're just very surprised um, on how many people are a part of that they hold assets in crypto. They have or they own crypto assets. I mean, it's becoming more and more common, but it's crazy to see how many of our investors are in crypto and into crypto. But it's kind of still it feels a taboo subject to to talk about it as a medium of exchange, like you said perfectly. No one wants to spend a use it as a currency, really.
Right.
And I mean, it's led to downturns in our U.S. economy when the dollar has been strong. People are
Mhm.
afraid to spend it; they save it more. Um, and leveraging another form of currency has always been something that we've been super open to in the United States. With when it comes to the bimetallism
Mhm.
debates in the 1800s about the silver standard versus the gold standard, we look at and we have conversations with our clients about this being a just another layer of risk assessment that they can take into their investments to lower risk. Because I mean, when you add these crypto solutions um, to their toolkit, it changes the way that people are thinking about debt. It's changing the way people are thinking about interest, and it really does add value to their incentives. And if you change the way you think about debt, and it lowers, it's a benefit to you, and it lowers your risk. You're able to invest more of your capital. You're not as hesitant, and you're just overall I think a better investor. So our real initiative at this point is to just kind of be a education tool for our investors, and have conversations with them about their crypto outlook and about their holdings, and trying to have that mental link or that philosophical link between using cryptocurrencies to settle real estate transactions. Because um, to not just get kind of locked into the word crypto or cryptocurrency, the technology that's underneath it all, and the payment settlement systems that they were built on, are actively updating to be a peer-to-peer risk mitigation system. And so the more I think that capital engages with that, the better it functions. And so we feel like we're just you know, just one small organ in making the future accelerate when it comes to real estate investing with crypto.
Now, are you guys, developing anything yourselves? Are you getting into the NFT space? Like where are you going? Where do you see kind of that future going for Walden, your investors, that interest level from them?
So, you know, I had a great conversation with. So, well, to answer your first question, our our firm is active in the Cardano community. Um, we have a development team that is working on creating a uh, proof of funds NFT solution, as well as a bundle of rights NFT solution. It's going to essentially be developed to act as the property owned on the bundle of rights side of property ownership. The seller will take custody of their all of the abstractions that represent their real property, um, and kind of take the burden off of central governments, take the burden off of um, public recording systems, and have a self verification, a way to self verify who owns what, how they own it, and that's updated in real time. And so that's where we're at on the NFT side. Very active in the Cardano community, because we some of the mechanisms that they are coming up with technology wise with the recent Alonzo hard fork, the you know smart contracts just being released. We find it an intersection between really interesting blockchain development and the humanity side of blockchain. I think a lot of times there's this nameless, faceless, anonymous, trustless. Those words are used a lot in crypto, but Cardano is a really interesting um, network that really incentivizes identity, incentivizes the humanity, um, and you know we see that being ready. Hopefully, I won't put a timeline on it because everything in this
Yeah,
space,
no,
we're 4 months out, we're 4 months out, we're 4 months out.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, we're really excited about that. And I think that it was put really well by a title agent that I think we both know. Um, he said the reason why people aren't really developing things like this right now is because the real estate industry, the way to prove who owns what and how they own it, or the way to do a transaction isn't broken. You know, it's hot. The market's hot. So if it's not broken, why would you fix it? And so um, we feel like we have a time advantage over some people who might be interested in creating a similar thing. Just because, I mean, why would you do it right now? This is not the time to make the case for it. I mean, and that's why we want to be as aggressive as possible building it out right now, just to get ready for um, a time when buyers and sellers are in demand for a solution like that.
yeah. No, totally understand that, and that's kind of where the future is, right? Because yes, you have the NFTs, yes, you have the blockchain.
Yeah,
We'll have Helio's going to have the lending of the NFTs, right? Using that digital code as that collateral, and there's all sorts of just amazing things happening down the road in this space. And so, how many different ways people can look at it, from leveraging the asset to do it, to develop it, to buy it, to the smart contracts, to commissions into perpetuity
right.
for sale and resale for developers. I mean, it's just so many people, and I think what I hear from a lot of the developers is it's almost too much to comprehend at one time.
It is, yeah.
Especially for someone newer to the space, or someone who says, well, I don't know. So give us, maybe walk me through, what is your conversation like with an investor as it comes to crypto or the lending, right? What questions do you ask? What questions do they ask? Kind of, for some people who may be newer to having these conversations with potential investors, like can walk us through what that's like, if you don't mind.
So the first one is something that we've kind of covered. It's like, why would I spend my my crypto holdings. I mean, I've seen 1,000x return or some crazy
Right.
number like that in the past few years. So I'm not gonna um, to part with this. So it's
Which
not
we now have a solution for with our
exactly.
partnership. We have the lending solution for that now. So we can
It's
we can go ahead and knock that one
exactly.
out.
Exactly. So that's what I hear all the time. And so I've been having conversations like that for the past, for the past year. Right. Well, I guess it might have been longer than that. A couple of years ago, I had a conversation with my first real meaningful conversation I had about real estate, the intersection of real estate and blockchain. I, I knew a banker who had a lot of REOs, and I wasn't really a part of the kind of the Bitcoin decentralized mindset yet. I mean, there
Mhm.
was elements of me that kind of believed in, you know, a decentralized economy, but I didn't really understand what all the implications of what it could be. But I had this conversation with him, and I thought, why would it be interesting to sell those REOs in exchange for Bitcoin, or in exchange for crypto? And we had conversations like that, and we've kept in contact since then. And um, I've had you know a couple of other foundational conversations that really spurred us to develop Landcoin. Um, in Texas, actually, I think it was the first transaction completed with uh, cryptocurrency. I think it was in Arlington, um, and we've always been thinking in these lines of like, how do we get before we even knew that people didn't want to spend their Bitcoin, we
Mhm.
had these conversations. And so we've been thinking like this for a long time, and talking to our investors about it for a long time. It's not until I had the pleasure of meeting you that we had a solution to fit into their needs. I didn't know that these solutions even existed yet.
Right.
People in the crypto space and the crypto lending space are usually not in the real world, if that makes sense. They're in the stake pools, in the
Yeah.
DeFi world, that they're lending on in the virtual world. And I mean,
Right.
um, there's this huge movement and demand for virtual real estate, that we study and we're really intrigued by, because I mean, some of these tracts of virtual land are selling for thousands of real dollars, or for thousands of dollars, and or they're staking their coin to settle these transactions. So um, we knew the demand for the real world application has been there, and we've been looking for the real world
Yeah.
application. And now I'm just so happy that we can partner with you guys and provide that to our network.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
land's not
something we've
cheap,
been hungry
right?
for.
Land's not cheap.
Right.
Yeah, land's not cheap. And if you can lend, if you can get a 70% LTV at a 5% interest on $1 million and up, and you're using an asset that is growing at what percentage? I mean,
We're up 100 times on each. So
I'm thinking
from
the chances that you're going to make money on the back end of
in a
this
year.
is probably pretty high. And I've not heard anything at 5% for a 70 LTV for a
Oh,
million and up yet. I think there's, just a few weeks ago, we were talking to one of our partners. I mean, there's 0% options out there. But I mean, on a million and up, that one to me kind of struck me as, whoa, when the real estate market hits, these aren't 100, $200,000 transactions, right? I mean, these things get up and up. And yeah, if interest is going to be there, well, let's just see what we can do to keep it as low as possible and protect
yeah,
that underlying asset. I mean, because ultimately that's what we want to do. So,
it's incredible.
things like that are just incredible to me. And I look at these guys and going, you can almost hear in their face that they were expecting way worse, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, so what does my credit need to be? What do I need to show? Like, how long does this take? And you're going, hey, we can do up to 15 million, call it in 72 hours if you're ready to go. Like, people just go, what? And when you walk them through the process, it's an educational piece. It's a lot of learning behind the lending, but it's not overly complicated.
So there's something that Helio is doing that I think that we share, and why I think Walden and Helio is a good fit is because you guys are, I think, following a very Austrian economic type of principle. It's like, in order to supply higher quality markets,
Mhm.
whether it be real estate markets, money markets.
Mhm.
You have to demand higher values with your market participation.
Sure.
Um, I just I think lowering the barrier to entry for anyone to engage with the radical appreciation potential of real estate um, is all positive. Like there's not one negative thing to lowering the barrier to entry to making the steps necessary to be able to realize gains in real estate. I mean, of there is red tape, there is all kinds of different barriers to entry
Mhm.
with the traditional system. This solution, I mean, not only in the short term,
Yeah.
adoption in the commercial markets of real estate. I mean, this is a well kept secret. I mean, it's up to people like me to get the word out, and I'm honored to be able to be a part of that. Um, but in the future, in the long term, think about the Generation Z
Mhm.
or beyond home buyer that um, is being pretty much bet against right now in the residential mortgage market. BlackRock and those type of investment companies in the world, they're analyzing the data and they're making bets that like, hey, these people will never be able to afford a home with the way
Right.
that things are going with the getting a mortgage is harder for these. I mean, if you've exposed your portfolio as a Gen Z or as a millennial to crypto over the past few years, I mean, you're looking at thousands of times or hundreds of times return if you're in the right investments, if you're in the right currencies, the right assets. I don't think in human history and I know it can be dramatic sometimes, but we can never. I don't know if we've ever seen a exposure to a store of value that's increased that radically.
Mhm.
So it could help people in the future that right now the market is shifting away from anticipating they'll be able to afford mortgages to them being able to afford homes and creating wealth. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just, I mean, that's the future, and with a capital F. I mean, that's
No.
incredible.
Yeah. So I know we're kind of running up on our time here, so I wanted to leave a little bit open for some Q&A. So I'm going
Yeah.
to put my contact information in the chat to everyone, Blake, if you'd like to do that as well. I'm sure people probably like to reach out to you and find out more about yourself and Walden. For me, you guys can reach out to me directly also, but we just want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A, some questions on here, and kind of go from there. So one of the questions that has come in says, what are you suggesting in terms of real estate investment using blockchain concretely?
Could you say that one more time? I just put my
Yeah. So what are you suggesting in terms of real estate investment
Mhm.
using the blockchain concretely? So that's the question that came in.
you know, I take a Occam's razor approach. I don't try to get too complicated and get out of my area of expertise, and that's the reason why I feel like land is fundamental. There's just it represents potential, and there's of course deeper layers to real estate than land. I mean, you have to think about investing in land in the right place, depending on your strategy. Um, I think land as an asset class is where real world blockchain application and real estate meet each other. It's just there's overall there's less moving parts in a land deal. Overall, if that's a general statement. That's not always true, but if you're buying a plot of land on the side of the highway, there's way less moving parts to that deal than a commercial building. There's way
Mhm.
less moving parts than even a residential mortgage, and it satisfies less double coincidence of wants. Like you're not like in a residential deal. Usually, most of the buyers of mortgages are also buying new mortgages, selling their home at the same. So there has to be a swip swap. That, of course, is obviously what we're looking to be able to develop from Artifact and from Landcoin. Um, but why we are bullish on land as the intersection is because we feel like it's practical enough that when the technology is ready, it will meet real world use case first. So uh, we would say land.
Yep. We had one come in asking about the difference in commercial versus residential as far as the lending comes in the NFTs. Now, I'll answer, NFTs are still something, I know there's a lot of people working on them. I know we're something we are heavily interested in as well, but commercially, it's going to be a lot easier because most of these buildings, most of the lands are owned by a company, which in the NFT space you need to. So depending on what state you're in, again, I can't tell you, should you do a trust, an LLC? So, I can't really get into all of that. But right now, that's generally how that's done. So the NFT space in the future is going to be a lot easier to be adopted by the commercial real estate versus the residential. I think that one's going to be a little bit later on. And that's just my opinion on it, just simply because there are, for now, there's really no one-stop shop to go and do that. And there's still a lot of laws within the United States. It's definitely easier internationally, for that. I think they're just a little bit ahead of us on that. But yeah, that's kind of my take on that one.
Yeah. And I think a better way of thinking about it is that our government's a bit ahead of theirs. And you know what I mean? Like,
Maybe.
so, I think that there is good things and bad things when it comes to regulation, but you're spot on there. And I think that the tokenization of real estate and the fractional ownership of real estate via NFT or via any type of crypto asset is a gray area right now. And I think it will get, and this is just, like I said, my opinion, get grayer and grayer. There's, the SEC getting involved into any conversation is going to, it's going to be a big time investment to really figure out what you can and what you can't do when it comes to fractionalizing. That's why we're not really interested on the NFT side of creating a market solution. So to our investors, it's a different type of incentive. It's not like a real estate deal where you see say if you're a land speculator or you're developing homes, you're developing commercial properties, you can't really buy the rumor, sell the news in the same way. So you're using it more as a time value of money. And the real estate transaction processes are not only what make American property rights and property values strongest in the world, but what we're trying to do with our NFT is make it more efficient, like make the process of recording who owns what, how they own it, and then also the transaction process. We're trying to keep out of the financial vehicle game just because it's just really regulated and it's very hard to do business there. I think it's going to be harder and harder in the future. Yeah,
for sure. So I know we've got just questions coming in kind of left and right here. We're not going to have time to get to them all. And we've got a hard stop here at 30 minutes. So I'm going to, I see everyone. I'll keep all of the chats up. I'll respond to everybody. I'll send some of the stuff off to Blake as well. And he can respond to some of your questions as that. But again, Blake, it's so good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on and kind of give us some insights from not from an individual, but from more of an investment company. It's always great to hear, how we can partner together and how we can fit a solution for your investors, as far as the, taking away objection number one for you guys, just, hey, here's a lending platform that's, it's an easy way to get rid of it. So can't thank you enough. Really enjoyed it. You and I, of course, we talk often, so we'll be catching up soon. Again, to everyone, if we didn't get to your questions, apologies. We'll try to reach out to everyone individually. Both of Blake's and myself, our contact information is here, so feel free to reach out to us via the emails or LinkedIn as well. You can connect with me there. So really appreciate the time. Thank you guys so much. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.
Thank you for having me.
Blake.